Hello and welcome back, everyone. I've been working on the little diesel here. I'm getting ready to take everything off it to start degreasing it so I can paint it. And I'm going to be upgrading the starter on this tractor. So I figured while I go ahead and take this off of here, I'd talk a little bit and show you guys the starter upgrade in case there's anyone out there interested in doing this. So this is a D600, which would have been like the 782D, the 1512, the 1572, etc. Same starters used in a 1772, which would have been the D640. But anyone that knows anything about these little Cub Cadet diesels is the starter doesn't really crank over fast enough and it takes a lot of battery power. So this is where these come in handy. This is a Danso gear reduction starter, and this is a good replacement for the stock one on here. We're going to go ahead and talk about this a little bit, and that's the starter that I'm going to be using on this tractor. And with the gear reduction, if any of you have seen videos and stuff before, when you put them on, they just spin a lot faster and it makes starting these tractors a lot easier, especially with the small batteries that you can fit in these tractors. So we'll go ahead and put the starters side by side. I'll let you guys see a little bit about them, and we're going to talk about some of the options and ways to do this starter. Now, ideally, how I have it here, an engine removal, this is your easiest way of doing this. And that's why, since I already have the engine on the tractor, I'm going to go ahead and do the starter upgrade. All right, here's my 782D. This tractor is all still original, and I wanted to show you guys this because it has the original starter in it before we go on. Now, the problem with getting these starters out is a lot of times you can remove this motor mount. These don't always actually want to come out of here. It hits. You can't. This one looks like there might be enough clearance on it to fit, but a lot of times that don't happen. Now, when you unbolt it from the tractor and you go to pull this back, the starter right there is going to hit that plate. I've seen some of these where people cut this whole plate out and cobble it to get it out. All right, here's the starter upgrade on my 1772 that someone had already put in there. And you can see when they did it, they did do it right. They must have either removed the engine or got this plate out to do it, but they got the hole drilled in. I just wanted to really show the clearance. They actually did a smaller hole than what I drilled in the plate that I did. So, all right, if you get the tractor, the engine mounts, even if you jack the engine up or lift the engine up a little bit, even if it's in the tractor, I'll show you the hard part that's going to be coming to this. These are 12mm bolts on the bottom. I already got the top one out. There's two bolts that hold this starter on, but the problem with the stock starter, and why you'll see so many people will either cut this or cobble everything, you get the bolts loose, you can't get the starter out. It gets hung up here on the bottom, and this piece over here, the cone gets caught. Now, there are some people I've seen that have taken a hammer and they've tried breaking this cone off to make the starter removal. You can do that. I'm not a big fan of that, but if you're not going to use the starter again, you could smash the cone up to make it easier to pull the starter out. The best way to do this would be to take off or loosen these bolts and pull this plate off. Now, that's not going to be the easier alternative with the engine in the tractor, but if you get these motor mounts out, removing this plate's your best bet, because you're going to have to drill a hole in the top here to accommodate a bolt for the new starter anyway. So let me take this plate off and then I'll show you what this starter looks on there. All right, so there's 4 5/8 diameter bolts that hold this plate on. I'm not going to lie to you guys, them bolts were in there pretty good, and originally I used an impact to loosen these up out of there. Best bet would be try to get up underneath the engine and get some leverage with a wrench, but while doing this with the engine there, like I said, it's not going to be easy. Probably disconnecting the drive shaft and trying to lift the engine up out with something like this is going to be your best way to do it. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's probably your best scenario. So when this starter comes out, now it slides right out because this cone or nothing gets in the way. And then when you put this new starter in, these gear reductions have this lug down here for the bolt. Now when these go in, find what I did with that bolt. All right, so this starter is a lot larger than the stock one that would come on there. So when this plate goes on, it's not gonna fit because that lug's gonna hit that. Now, from what I've read online, some people say to use a 1 1/4 hole saw bit. I don't know if I need to go that big. I'm gonna use a 1 1/8, which is 29 millimeter. And I'd already put one bolt on down here. And by doing that, I could slide that plate up, and I marked that plate right there. And I'm gonna drill, I think this 29 millimeter 1 1/8 is gonna be perfect size for that. I don't wanna go too big because then you're just cutting all your plate up, just weakening it. And I don't think it really needs that big of a hole. So this is what I'm gonna start out at if I run into any problems. If it needs to be bigger, I'll let you guys know. And then back in here, the little drain boot, it's optional. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to, but I might put a hole in there for that to slide down through. So we'll see. Right now I got to get the hole drilled in that plate, and then I'll get the starter bolted on, test fit it, and we'll see. All right, so looking at the starters, there's the stock one. And then here's the one with the gear reduction. Now, you can get these online, these gear reduction starters, and Kubota tractors actually still use this type of starter. So it's really not like a special starter like, you know, someone doing aftermarket for a Cub Cadet to make gear reduction, but these gear reduction starters are really nice. And they range in prices, all different prices if you look online. And there are some Chinese knockoffs. Now, like I stated earlier in the video, this is a Denso, and this starter is made in Japan. The stock one, I believe, is stamped Mitsubishi. So the stock starter was a Mitsubishi. It doesn't have the cone on these, but that's not gonna affect nothing. It's not gonna hurt anything. Now there are, like I said, Chinese knockoffs of this, and you can get these, you know, cheaper if you buy the China ones. I don't suggest doing it, and I'm gonna tell you why. My 1772, that's got a brand new starter in it when I got it. The gear reduction starter process was already done, and I've had nothing but issues with that starter. The solenoid, it just, you either have to tap it with a, you know, like a wooden end of a hammer sometimes, or sometimes it just, if it gets too warm, it won't start. I've been having issues with it. I was thinking about adding another relay, wiring up a starter solenoid or something, going to the other solenoid, because you can do that trick. But I think just what I'm gonna do is, since the hole's already cut and I don't really have to remove the engine completely now that it already has this style of starter, and it's a lot easier. I will say that it's a lot easier replacing this starter once you already get rid of this one and the hole's already cut. So since everything's already done to it, I'm just gonna go ahead and get another one of these Denso starters, and I'm gonna throw one in there and then keep that other one for parts, I guess. But I got this starter here. You see, this is a used one. I got this at Adams Small Engine. Now, I know some of you might be saying, why are you putting a used starter on something? For as much as I'm using this tractor, I think that this starter here will outlast one of them China ones in my opinion. But he's got a rack of starters of all kinds of stuff there, so I'll put the contact information in there. Like I said, I'm gonna, next time I get up there, I'm gonna get another one from him. He does ship, so anyone needs a starter for anything, whether it's your Kohler, Kubota, anything, give them a call, get on their website, and check them out. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this out. I wanna get everything degreased real well. And then when I get this painted and I put this starter in, I'll show you guys what it looks like in with the hole cut in the plate. All right, here's the plate. I got the hole drilled through it. I did drill an optional hole for my drain tube, and that'll go through there. That way it's not smashed in there. 1 1/8 worked pretty good. It was a good size. It left a little meat left on both of these to where it wasn't too big, and I already test fit this. I'll show you guys this with it hooked up. I got a little more filing to do. I want to file all this down smooth and repaint this, but Sort of glad I did take these brackets off. I don't know if you can pick up in the video, but there's already a hairline crack through here. And once I cleaned all the grease off, I noticed that. So that's another reason why I didn't want these holes to be too close. With the vibration, I didn't want it cracking through there, but I'm gonna have to clean this up and re-weld this one. And while I had the other plate off, clean the grease off, this one you can really see it. Look at that plate on the other side there came right apart and cracked. So I don't know if how long that's been on there. That looks like clean rust there, but it could have been after I cleaned. There's grease stuck in there. That could have been afterwards. So that really doesn't have anything to do with the starter upgrade, but just more projects to do now. It just seems to never ending when I do this. So I'll get that plate mounted up and show you guys what it looks like with the starter. All right, so there's the plate all mounted. I only got the 2 bolts in the bottom, but that 1 1/8 hole seemed to work pretty well. Now, when I do get everything mounted on permanent, when I put this on, I will put a rubber boot around here to make sure that it doesn't arc on there. But I was afraid to go too much, like I said, with that other hole back there. I didn't want to chance this plate cracking in the future. There's with my hole for my vent or my drain tube. You can see that up in there. That comes right down through there. That's something you probably wouldn't be able to really do unless you pulled the engine and removed this plate to do that. But since I had the plate out, instead of smashing that back in there, I thought it'd be pretty cool to drill a hole, that way it fits down in there. So all right, so I got my brackets back. A friend of ours welded these up for me, did a really good job. There I got my holes drilled for my starter, but both of these brackets had hairline cracks in them. This one had a little bit of a hairline crack that you really couldn't see. This one was real bad. I showed a video of that earlier, but just getting ready to throw some primer on these and get them painted. But if anyone's taking any of these apart, be sure to inspect these brackets carefully. And also the fan mounting bracket's another one I heard that is common. My fan mounting bracket was fine, it was just the engine one. So I just wanted to point that out and show you guys. All right, so I got my plates mounted on there. I got them all welded up and painted. And you can see that this starter in here fits perfect. Now this is just off another Kubota, like I said earlier, so it should work pretty good, but time will tell. I did make the hole, like I said, for my little boot there, and I am gonna put a boot on the end of the wire when I attach it to here, just to make sure it doesn't touch nothing and arc, but should be plenty of clearance there. I got all the new belts on until the engine got painted. I got all these rubber hoses put on. The glow plug for the relay, I haven't put new fuel lines or nothing on. I got a little bit of time today, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this put on the cradle. I finally got the cradle painted, and then I'm gonna try to fit the larger radiator and see how I can do that. And then once I test fit it in the tractor, it'll be painting the tractor. So it's slowly coming along. Summertime's here now, so I don't know how much time I'm gonna get free time to work on this, but that's the starter upgrade. It is a pretty good upgrade if you guys are doing it. Any other videos you'd like to see, please go ahead and comment below. As always, thanks for watching.